interacting a little bit. But let me now start with formal introductions. We are part of Solh Wellness. We are a mental wellness platform. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to solve the problem of mental health through a tech-based intervention in a scalable manner. Okay, and we will talk a little bit more about it as we move along as well. But we are trying to solve the problem of mental health through a tech-based scalable solutions. As part of that, of course, interacting and talking to people about mental health is an extremely critical portion of what we do. This is the first part of where we start off with anyone, with any individual or with any organization, where we go in and we talk about what does mental wellness, mental health really mean for an organization. We talk about how does it impact individuals, how does it impact groups, and correspondingly, how does it impact organizations? What are the aspects you could think of? What are the things that you could look of? This is, while this is a reasonably comprehensive workshop, but this is just to give you a teaser, a taste of what it really means. What are the aspects to be considered? What are the solutions that are available? What is it that everybody around could do? Specifically because we are today talking to trainers, we thought that we will do conversations that would be focused around your mental health. But then, because you are trainers, we will also do conversations that would be focused around mental health of people that you work with. And specifically considering that the ones that you work with are usually reasonably young, probably out of their home or out of their cocoon academic environment for the first time, stepping into what many people call as the real world. I'm sure there are all sorts of challenges, all sorts of problems, all sorts of aspects that they would face. We will talk in a little bit more detail about some of what those challenges may be. While we call the workshop as work-life balance, it's not just about work-life balance. Work-life balance for us really has become a nomenclature that is used to almost look at workability of an individual in their life. And we will talk a little bit about that as we move forward as well. I have my team here. Let me do some introductions before we get started. The person sitting there handling the camera is the business head for Solh. She's the person who's responsible for the entire business activity that goes on in Solh. Here is Ritika. She's a psychologist who's part of what we internally call as the Solh counseling team. Over there is Reni. She is also a counselor who is also a psychologist who's part of the Solh counseling team. And back there is Muskan, who is a co-founder in Solh Wellness, is the head of youth affairs and comes from a psychology background herself as well.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Ritika, and as Sir said, I am a psychologist. So all the technical parts of the workshop Sir will handle because he has the expertise in the in the field, and he has been a part of he's been managing agencies for decades now. So I'm still a newbie. I'm a counseling psychologist, and also my perspective would be more clinical in nature, more real life stories. And since I have been for the past 2 months, we have been going to schools and working with children. So I will make it very, very interactive. I would like to introduce games and stories because that is what worked there and it's still in my system. So I would also like to bring it here. So we will start with a great game. Alright, so it's a very simple game. Everybody just says, let's say, what is your favorite activity? So let's say you say, I love swimming. So everybody does an action for swimming. And it's sort of a warm-up game to get you all together. So we will start here. So what is your favorite activity? So everybody play basketball. Come on. I would like my team to also do it. Okay, yeah. Okay. I see some trained basketball players, but not everybody is very trained. I can see that also. Sir, what is your favorite activity?
I like motorcycling.
Everybody, motorcycle, come on. Oh, Okay. Alright. So, what is your favorite activity?
I love trekking.
Trekking, everybody? Come on.
Get up.
Yeah, sure. Sir, what is your favorite activity? Yeah.
Sleeping.
I'll definitely go expecting. Everybody can maybe take a nap or a little nap. Sleeping is a great activity, sir. So, what is your favorite activity?
Playing cricket.
Playing cricket. Everybody play cricket. Come on.
I play any other games also.
Okay, ma'am, what is your favorite activity?
I like traveling.
How do we travel? Okay, we're driving a car, we're traveling.
We are in Indigo Airlines.
Oh,
What do
we
you
are
know?
You have to travel like this.
Ma'am, what is your favorite activity? Running. Okay. Everybody will not make you run much. Ma'am, what is your favorite activity?
Playing volleyball.
Playing volleyball. Like this? Yes. Alright. That's great. So now that we have a little bit of a smiles on our faces, I would like to begin with talking about mental health. So why do you think we talk about mental health? Like, what is the need of the hour? Why mental health? Like, if I tell my parents and I talk to them and say oh yeah, mental health is a concept. When I was starting off in my career in 11th grade, when I chose to do psychology, and they were like, what is psychology? Like, ye banna hai, mama, psychologist banna hai. Because in one time in 8th grade, someone told me that, oh, what do psychologists do? And someone said, oh, psychologists make sad kids better. I was like, yahi karna hai. So that is what I told my parents, that mama, I want to make sad kids better. And that is how the concept of mental health formally got introduced in my family. So everything that we do is a part of mental health. My mother, when I say that I'm stressed, my mother is like, oh, kuch hota hai, but she doesn't know the word stressed for it. Like, I'm sure there have been people in our families, my grandfather or his. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Give this to me, I'll handle
Yeah.
this.
Who have been so stressed or who have been depressed, who have gone through suicide ideations, who did not know or who did not have any sort of a help for this, a part of it. So I would like to tell you a little story. So I'm sure a lot of us will find stories about the partition very fascinating, and we have heard a lot of stories about the same. But there's one very fun story. So during, I think, 1945 to 1947 in Punjab, there was this transition happening. So people were moving across countries, people were moving away from the zone of war. So the government was actually deciding who should we move first. So of course the first comes priority to women and children. Like, ye sabse pehle jayenge to safer zones. Then came men. Then any idea what came next? Animals, okay. Any guesses? Old people. Old people come to the last because they had, like, there's a general conviction that old people have productivity थोड़ी कम है, so end में निकाल सकते हैं. Or any idea? So in the end, it came down to two things. There was a zoo and there was a mental asylum where people with different kinds of mental disabilities, they were living there. And it came down to कि हम पहले animals को लेकर जाएं या mental asylum वालों लोगों को लेकर जाएं. The decision was made that the zoo will be emptied first, because zoo, the animals are bringing in money, and the people in the mental asylum, useless people, not bringing any productivity, not productive for the society. Mental health is that concept. Mental illness was a concept about, not productive enough. I remember when my brother was getting hired, my brother is 20 years elder to me, and he was getting hired for whatever company he's working for, and there was this test, a stress test that he had to take, and he got a high level of stress in his test, and he was rejected in the first interview because the stress was high, and they thought that this person is not a good fit for our brand, for our company, and he will not be able to move further. So now, now we are here talking about mental health, 20 years later, and it's widely accepted. It's widely, there are conversations about it daily, on the everyday. I am depressed, I am sad. Okay, there are conversations about therapy, there are conversations about medication. So my point is, it has been trickled down to a widely accepted stage. I had no clue about what depression meant until I was 16, 17. My 4-year-old nephew knows what depression means. My parents were like, depression kya hota hai, chata padega, sab theek ho jayega. So it has been more and more widely accepted, and it is a great thing, and we have come from the partition stage to this stage of talking about it in a daily, which is a wonderful thing. Okay, so I want to talk about, when we talk about mental health, there's always this concept of the affordability of mental health. So I will give you an example of when I was working in the psychiatric department of the Mulchan Hospital. There was, on my first day there, this man came in, seemingly, it was apparent that he's not from a very great financial background. The guy was a 40-year-old. He was a driver of cars. He worked in Gurgaon, and from Gurgaon he went to the Mulchan Hospital, and he was crying in front of me, and I was trying to gather what has happened to this person. And imagine this person who is a driver, who probably gets 10,000 rupees a month, spending 2,000 for a 20-minute consultation in this psychiatric facility. So I have noticed two trends. There's the rich people who are who for them therapy is an everyday thing. If they're aware enough, of course, they can afford it if they want to. They can take 5 therapy sessions a week or 10 therapy sessions in a month. And then there's the necessity part of it, that there's this section also that they can't afford to do this. For them this is a luxury, but the necessity, and they come out of desperation. And this desperation, it's very evident. Even when we are working in our office and we get these calls from people who are, it's evident that when we say that, okay, this is how much you have to pay for 1 hour of therapy, there's this hesitation into, okay, how do we get this money? And when I am taking sessions, so many people, they come with the thought ki, aaj hi notes bana lenge sare, because dobara lene ka mauka mile na mile. So they actually come with a notepad and a pen, that because they think that this is a luxurious thing. When I am talking to them, it is evident that this is the person who may not, and even it affects my way of talking with them also. I'm like, kitni tips do 1 ghante mein ki sab theek ho jaye, which is not how therapy works. Therapy takes years and years of work, so the affordability will always be a drawback. That's why there is an importance of mental health awareness. That is why it has to start from the bottom. It has to start in the childhood. It has to be everywhere. Because unless and until you are working on your mental health every day, or on a daily, with every aspect of what you do, it doesn't have to come to that luxurious, ab baat bahut bigad gayi hai, ab 2,000 rupees dene hi padenge for this session.
And I'm sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
But what I've understood is, people just to accept that I need help, it will take a long time.
Yeah.
When they come to a psychologist, just to get to them takes a long time. So
Yeah.
they try to be defensive, they try to fight it out, don't accept,
Yeah.
or try to project their best self. That
Right.
I am okay, nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But I think, as you're saying correctly, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And maximum time comes in just breaking that, dissolving that ego part, or dissolving that part that says, okay, you know what, let me be real.
Absolutely. In fact, that is exactly what we are trying to do here. And actually, generically, if I talk about as an organization, that is exactly what we are trying to do. Number one, if we are able to get to a situation where people start having early acceptance or early discovery of their challenges, and they start doing an early intervention, a lot gets taken care of. It may not necessarily always require years of therapy at that point of time, because you are able to handle it right when kind of nip it in the bud of sorts. Number two, specifically as we get into professional kind of environments, the question many times may not simply just be affordability. I mean, affordability, yeah, it's important, but I'm sure you provide great health insurance. I'm sure you provide other kinds of capabilities. The problem may not necessarily be of affordability. The problem may either come from the fact, is it acceptable? I mean, I am, a trainee for being a crew member. If I show the slightest sides of having any mental health issue, will I be allowed to move forward? One. Then the second is, how will other people look at me? Assuming, okay, I'll still be able to do my job, and the organization has a structure for it, but how will I be looked at? Next time, when I don't like the food that is put in front of me, what would they say? I dislike the food, or I was having one of those challenges? Right? Number three, how will they use or misuse it? Are they going to judge me now? And all of those attributes. In a professional environment, it becomes even more complicated. And that's, you're absolutely right. That's really what needs to be done. It needs to be made acceptable. It needs to be made discoverable. And it needs to be made full of solutions that anybody can utilize without having to, being looked upon as an extreme. So if everybody is taking some sort of mental health impacts everybody. Right? There is no way I can stand here and say, hey, I've been working in mental health for 3 years. My mental health absolutely, I can't say that, right? That will be false. You can go to the topmost person. You can go to the CEO of your organization. He will probably have more, challenges than anybody else, I guess, in the organization. Or you can go to anybody bottom down. The issues of mental health will always be there. They will always, impact with a different manifestation for everyone, like I said earlier. So that's really what we are talking about in terms of making it aware, making it discoverable as well, making it acceptable as well, and then providing people solutions as well.
Yeah, even like I work as a psychologist, and some days I'm like, Mama, I'm today feeling too stressed, don't want to go to work. I was like, Mama is like, कि तुझे stress है, तू दूसरों की help करती है और तुझे stress है.
You get all the stress from others.
Yeah, because Mama, you're trying to say that doctors don't get sick. I was like, so कहते तू तो खुद अपने notes पढ़ ले. Which is like a very common trend in every sort of a way, like with doctors, with anyone, I think in the service industry, it's a trend that, like you can help yourself. Basically, if you can help others, you can help yourself too. Which isn't, I would say, entirely false. Also, you can always help yourself, but of course, it's much, much better when there's support around. It's much, much better when there's another listening ear. So, can we have the next slide, please? Okay. So now that we talked about, we have to have mental health, we have to have conversations around mental health. I would like to talk about, our own. How does mental health as a concept develop in our own self? So, like for a second, just forget about, the rest of what mental health might be, just think about your own mental health, right? Think about your own mind. And has anyone heard this concept of, like that we use 10% of our brains? And I think it was in that movie Lucy that they've said that, we only use 10% of our brains. And there was this entire paper about how if we were to use 100% of our brains, actually we would have, in reality, we would have like a seizure and die immediately. But in concept, if we were to use 100% of our brains, I would be able to, without using my hands, pick up this pen and put it there, just with my mind. It's that powerful. And so we always talk, there's this saying that your entire life is determined by your mind. Your mind makes your life. And it's much less physical than it is mental. And the physical aspect of what is coming, like everything that we do, every behavior that we exhibit or every action that we perform, it's sort of mental. Like it originates in the brain, it originates in the mind, and then creates like a physical form, it creates a shape. Okay, so I'll give you one example of this person I used to see a long time back ago, like a client. So there was this, I think it was my second day at the same hospital, and this boy comes in, and he was a 20-year-old boy. So 5 years ago, the boy got a dog bite. But he thought that, okay, apne aap theek ho jayega. So he didn't get a vaccination for it, or the injections that you get, the rabies shot for it. 4 or 5 months later, he thought, yaar lagwa lena chahiye. So usne jaake lagwa liya after 5 months. And then again, after 3-4 months, his right arm, slowly, it stopped working. Like first he lost sensation in his little finger, then slowly the hand, and it came down to his elbow. So now he created this correlation that, I don't know about anything else, but this thing that has happened to my hand, it has happened because I got that shot 3 months ago. And there was something wrong with that shot. That doctor gave me the wrong shot. And it's just because of that. Although, just a week ago, he had gotten into an accident that affected his entire body, but more so his arm. So there's a clear explanation that, yes, because of that accident, that arm has stopped working. But it was sort of hung up on that one shot because he didn't know that doctor personally, and he had this conviction कि भाई ये doctor अच्छा नहीं है और इसने मुझे instead of the rabies shot he's given me some fuzzy shot. And because, or maybe because that, okay, वो 4-5 महीने wait नहीं करना चाहिए था, तभी shot लगवा लेना चाहिए था. So this thing that he kept thinking of, it solidified so much in his brain that it became a conclusion that ये हुआ इसकी वजह से ये हुआ. So there's this therapy type called the narrative therapy. It says that everything that we think is happening, we sort of have like a rasta to it. For example, the way I'm behaving today or the way I'm speaking with today, I have a story in my head. I was born in this place. This happened, this was my education, this was my schooling, and this is why I speak like this. Or for example, if I get very stressed in very easy situations, I have a story in my head that, because जब बचपन में ये easy situations में आसपास बहुत शोर होता था, तो मैं बहुत stress हो जाती थी. तो even now, जब बहुत वो होता है, easy situations आता है और शोर होता है, तो मैं stress हो जाती हूँ. So I have this story in my head. मुझे depression क्यों है? ये हुआ, that's why I'm depressed. And a lot of times in that type of therapy, we work towards changing that story. And that's how we come to a sort of a solution to it, sort of a conclusion to it. कि भाई ये भी तो हो सकता है. Okay, his story was that, dog bite, rabies shot, wrong rabies shot, and thus my arm's not working. Our job was to convince him that, okay, no, that's not how it came to be. That was, okay, rabies shot, rabies nahi hua tumhe. You are safe. An accident happened and thus. But that job of convincing, the changing of the mind pattern and the changing of what we are thinking, it takes a lot of work. That's why we say that minds are like very, very powerful. Have you heard of that story, The Last Leaf? Have you seen the movie Lutera? So in the movie, what happens is these two artists, they're living together. And one of the artists, the woman, she gets severely ill with pneumonia. So she's on her bed all the time, and outside her bed there's a tree. And she thinks that when the last leaf falls off that tree, that's when she will die. So the autumn comes and all the leaves are falling off of the tree. And what the partner does is he keeps gluing the last leaf to the tree, taki it doesn't fall off. Taki that woman, she keeps, like thinking ki haan wo last leaf hai, so I will still be alive. I will still, continue to live. So वो बहुत पहले गिर चुका है, लेकिन 2-3 हफ्ते हो गए वो पेस्ट करे जा रहे हैं, वो बांधे जा रहे हैं उस पत्ते को, and she thinks, yeah, it's still there and I'm still alive. But one day he can't do it. One day something happens and the leaf falls, and she sees that the leaf has fallen, and the same day she passes away. The same day she passes away. So our own brains, they sort of create associations with a lot of things. So there's this actual study about how, our neural networks work. For example, if I think I am sad, if I think I am sad every day, if I think I am sad 5 times a day, the neural network for this sentence that I am sad, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, actually physically stronger in our brain. So when that happens, it's easier for me to reach that thought. पहले दिन ज़्यादा मुश्किल हुई, पहले दिन 5 बार सोचा, अगले दिन 20 बार सोचा, because it became easier and easier. That's how learning works, right? So there's this experiment, it's called the Little Albert experiment. So what happens in this experiment was, there was a baby, very small baby, like 2-3 months. So they were trying to teach him fear. Now this is a very, debated experiment, it's inhuman. Because, so they were trying to teach this baby fear. So with fear of animals. So there was a bunny. There was a white bunny, which for a baby might be cute. For us, it is like a cute thing. You pet the bunny, you play with the bunny. So what they did was, every time they put the bunny in front of the baby, they banged some drum and played a very loud sound that the baby started crying. So every time, so that happened over 10 days. That for 10 days, every time the baby saw the bunny, there was a loud sound and the baby started crying. After 10 days, they stopped playing the sound. But still, every time the baby saw the bunny, he started crying, because now the association had become
Conditioning.
Yeah, it's classical conditioning. The baby had been conditioned to sort of associate the loud sound with the bunny, and thus is now scared of the bunny. So they say that every fear or every behavior is learned. You can learn joy, you can learn fear, you can learn every emotion that you are capable of feeling. And it starts from the, bottom. It starts from very early childhood. For example, different phobias. Can you explain why you are afraid of heights? Can you explain why you are afraid of water? Because maybe at very early childhood, some water incident happened, some water fell and it was maybe for you it might not be distressing to see some water on the baby, but for the baby it could be distressing to have water on himself or herself, and that could be distressing. And
I would just like to interject
yeah,
that it is said, and I don't know why it is so, that it's called the aversion theory.
yeah.
The brain is always likely to experience negative thought
Mhm.
twice as strong than positive.
Then the positive thoughts.
And that is because
That is where I think our memories
Yeah.
are obviously going to be stronger in the negative side.
it's also like a great evolution theory that because our ancestors, they were always driven, that the only motivation was to live, that okay, survival is the main goal. So positive emotions ka kya kare, but the real things is that okay, we have to feel fear because we have to keep ourselves safe. We have to keep ourselves safe from the animals, from the whatever outside conditions that they have to prevent hurting themselves. So our brain, through evolution, of course there's a biological perspective to it as well, that our brains are wired that way, that we feel negative emotions much more stronger than positive emotions. Our like attention to distress is much more than our attention to joy, because that distress is also affecting you physically, and our instinct is survival. Our instinct is like we have to get to the next day. That's why even when they don't have the means, people pay thousands and millions of money to just to live another day, just to see the next week. And it's acceptable, it's completely acceptable. Okay, just give me a second. Yes. So that is why we say that visualization, and like a lot of people say कि affirmations करेंगे, and हम like कि रोज बोल देंगे that I am beautiful, so okay, तो beautiful तो नहीं हो जाएंगे, है ना? तो
But
रोज
we think we are
yeah. Yeah, but that's what say the affirmations, like it might sound like a very funny concept, but if you actually go and do it, and if you think about that, when I say I am sad, my brain like it registers that I am sad. So when I say that I am beautiful or I am happy, it will register. It will take longer because of course that is more the negative thought is more potent than the positive one, but eventually it will happen. So like sometimes the answers are very simple, like it's right there in front of you, but you think that it's too simple, so it can't work. Yeah, like people say कि 8 घंटे सो जाओ, इतना पानी पी लो. Like too simple, man. ये तो काम करेगा ही नहीं. Like it sounds too general because we've heard it so much कि हाँ लोगों से बात कर लो, किसी को बताओ, मम्मा पापा से बात कर लो. Yeah, it sounds too generic ना कि ये तो सब बोलते हैं, कुछ नया बताइए आप. Yeah. So another example of this, how like our mind convinces ourselves is there's this very quite famous case history of this lady, and this lady she lives with her dad and she lives with her brother, but is being sexually harassed by the both of them. So this lady develops this conviction that I am pregnant. She thinks that, she doesn't know, she hasn't taken any tests, but she thinks that okay, I am pregnant. 3 months pass and she has all the symptoms of pregnancy. She has a protruded belly, she is getting morning sickness and all the other symptoms. So the family takes her to the doctor. They're like, okay, let's take a test and make sure everything is okay. And so there's no baby for her. She has all the symptoms of a pregnancy, but there's no baby. So her mind sort of convinces her that okay, this has happened, and she believes in it so strongly that even though there's of course she believes in it because something has happened for her to believe in it, but it's not there. So our mind sort of always convinces us that this has happened, and this is the conclusion. And we believe in the conclusion so strongly that it just happens. That is why, like there's this, I think there was somewhere in the African countries that they don't cut down trees. They go and they curse the tree. They're like, ye tree kharab hai, ye tree kharab hai. After a few weeks, the tree falls off on its own. So, like that should tell you, like trees, like, of course there are theories that trees can hear and talk and communicate, but like imagine a child in that place, imagine a person in that place. Like, so the next time you think of, like yelling at a child, or the next time you think of yelling at perhaps one of your trainees, it's like the curse will hurt much more than the praise will.
It's very interesting you said that, the narrative of the mind. That is where the psychology helps us to shift the narrative of our mind.
Yeah.
Now that you're saying that our body physiologically reacts. So what are some of the ways individuals themselves can change the narrative? Is it possible? Can they do it?
Of course, there's this aspect
I'm
of
quickly, I'm sorry.
rationalization.
Since it's a quick generation. Quickly.
Yeah. So of course, like our brains are wired as such that, like we are emotional beings, right? The only thing that maybe separates us from, actually, I wouldn't call animals non-emotional beings either, but we are advanced in our emotions. Like animals will feel happy and be sad. We feel sad, depressed, too depressed, suicidal. We feel happy, joyful, ecstatic, excited, and whatnot. And so we always think of things in a very emotional sort of way. And so there's this aspect of rationality that everything has a rational explanation. Not everything, most of the things has a rational explanation. So when you think that you are, okay, this is a narrative and this is too distressing, I think I would suggest like taking a step back and see, like, is there actual evidence, like actual physical evidence that, okay, why I should reach this conclusion? Like, and that's when you gather like an alternate route. That, okay, this is the emotional route and this is the rational route. And maybe you find some space in the middle that, okay, yeah, this is an acceptable route that maybe I can change my narrative.
I've heard about this maybe called shadow technique, like questioning yourself, questioning your fear.
Yeah.
Is it genuine?
Yeah.
And really, in a lot of ways, the purpose of all learning, the purpose of all trainings, in some ways, is to help people develop and change and alter these narratives for them, and to be able to be, handle situations and aspects that occur. What we are trying to do is to complement that by capabilities, tools, and ability to change narratives for people from a mental wellness perspective as well, or from an insights perspective as well, so that when they have challenging situations, they are empowered enough to be able to deal with them. And dealing with them doesn't mean get out of it yourself. Okay, dealing with them just means they have a pathway to it. Get out of it yourself, seek other people's help, go do XYZ solution, or whatever else that may be required. Just empowering them to be able to get these solutions available to them is really what almost all training, not just training that we are doing from a mental health perspective, but more importantly the training that you guys do in a lot of cases, empowering people with these tools and solutions as well.
Yeah, so I would just like, now that we were talking about the mind, so there's this also like very general example of the phantom limb. Like your leg gets cut off, your arm gets cut off, you can still feel the pain because your mind thing is still there. Your mind think that, like, I can feel it. So a lot of, there's this case study of, this person, she doesn't have a leg, she doesn't have her right leg, but she wakes up in the middle of the night screaming and slashing that, okay, yeah, my right leg is hurting. It's not even there. So what she has to do is, every time she thinks that her right leg is hurting, and she's a surgeon, by the way, she goes into surgery and her leg starts hurting. So what she asks is, she can't move her hand because her hands are like elbow deep in someone. So she asks the person sitting next to her. She's asking, "Oh, can you take a knife and stab my right leg?" And he does that. He stabs the right leg, and he's like, "Yeah, now I know that it's a metal leg and it's not my real leg. Because if it were a real leg, I would feel the stab. I would shriek in pain, and it would be much more than what I'm feeling right now." So it's her, like, again, the rationality that, okay, I am feeling pain, but it's not there. So they come to a conclusion, they come to a solution to it through like physical means. So a lot of time the physical aids the emotional, and the emotional aids the physical. Emotional aids the physical all the time. But the physical aspect of it, it's like what's there. The science of it all. That yeah, this is the hard evidence and quantitative assessment of it. So I think now I would pass it on to Solh. Okay.
So, let's change gears a little bit. We talked about psychology, we talked about creating narratives, we talked about various aspects of, how people kind of work through various problems that they face and everything. Let me start by asking the question. Have you ever worked on your mental health?
Almost daily.
Almost daily. Anyone else? So, before you answer this question, let me give you some statistical data that I have gathered over the last few years. I have asked this question of more than 25,000 people. Have you ever worked on your mental health? Nearly 40% of those people, 40 to 45% of those people will tell me, I have never done anything. I never needed anything, I never had a problem, I have never done anything on my mental health. Another 45 to 50% of people will tell me, I do something. Somebody does journaling, somebody does exercising, somebody goes to the gym, somebody does yoga, somebody does meditation, somebody goes out to travel, somebody blah blah blah. Something. Somebody sings, somebody dances, somebody does whatever. Arts and painting and this, that and that. But one specific activity, somebody sleeps. In some ways, part of this could be the activity that you said is your most favorite activity. They don't need to be the same. If I ask you the question, have you ever worked on your mental health? Many of you may not think of the activity that you earlier said is my favorite activity. But 45 to 50% of people say they have done something. Nearly 2 to 5% people, and I usually talk in crowds where they are more aware, where they are more, call it intellectually aware of what mental health is, what mental wellness is, what should they be looking at and everything. Nearly 2% of people would tell me they have gone for some mental health solution. They have taken some active counseling, they have taken some active therapies or whatever. They have taken some sort of an external help. So now let me ask you, have you ever worked on your mental health? With this data, Mohit said that he works on it every day. So what do you do every day?
I see where I go wrong, how can I learn,
Okay.
I find tools to how I can improve.
So self-analysis.
Self-analysis, that's
Okay.
my go-to thing.
Okay.
So what they call intrapersonal
Perfect.
development, that kind of thing.
Anybody else? What do you do for your mental health?
So I basically read books
Read books.
and
Perfect.
I go for a run. So I read it somewhere that if you are happy, you can run. If you are sad, you have to run more.
Sure.
So that is my therapy.
Sure. Fair. Anybody else? What do you do? Have you ever worked on your mental health? It's a very important question. And it's a more important question for you guys as trainers thinking about other people as well.
If I talk about myself, whenever I feel stress, so my father is the one He's a very good counselor. He counseled me a lot and give me conclusion for that
Sure.
particular situation.
Sure. So he helps you go through the what
Yes.
Mohit was saying as self-analysis. Your father is kind of your
Yes,
sounding board
exactly.
who helps you do an analysis of whatever is going on, and you have enough of a call it a camaraderie, call it a respect, or however, that you are able to work through situations and deal with it. Okay. Anyone else?
So, for me, that thing was when I'm stressed, I go clean up my motorcycles, my car.
You go clean up your motorcycle, you go clean up your car, or okay, perfect. Anyone else?
He's got a nice stack of motorcycles.
Okay, great.
He creates motorcycles.
Creates.
Basically, I'm a bike builder. We do custom bike buildings.
Oh wow, fantastic. Where in Gurgaon? In Delhi only. Okay. Some of my, I'm not part of a motorcycling club myself, but I know many people who are. Yeah, I'll connect some of them with you. Right?
Yes. So I usually go to mandir or gurudwara. I sit there till the time I don't feel okay, now I should leave from here.
Fantastic. Spiritual, religious is an amazingly important aspect of how people look at mental health. So, and as I said, these are the statistics. I think these statistics will hold true here as well. 50% people would have, 45% people would have done nothing. 45-50% people would have one specific activity. I'm sure maybe one person might even have gone some active counseling or therapy or something. Let me change this environment of mental health a little bit. And specifically when I work with the younger lot, it becomes increasingly more important for them to look at it that way. I call this the 16-hour theory. What if I say, while I was asking you the question, have you ever worked on your mental health? And you were thinking, what is it that I really do, which I would call as mental health? How about I say, in your daily lives, every day, more than 16 hours a day, all that you do is mental health. In every action that you take in your life, in every decision that you make in your life, what you are trying to do as a human being is optimize your mental health. 16 hours a day. Every day. Your choice to eat or not eat and what to eat. Your choice to sleep or not sleep or how much to sleep. Your choice to travel or not, to meet somebody or not, to party or not, to build motorcycles or not, to think or not, to go to a spiritual place or not, to read a book or not, to go for a run or not. Every activity that you do in your life, every action and every decision is influenced by your need to optimize your mental health.
Kapil, I would disagree on this.
Yes, please.
I think what you may be talking about is people who are conscious. People who are doing it with intention. But I can tell you, majority of people that I know, not taking this group, otherwise, they are acting out of this pattern they have formed.
Mohit, I agree 100%, and that is exactly where I am getting to. Most people consciously do not know. You are right. Subconsciously, I can assure you, subconsciously, in the way their thoughts were, in the way they made those decisions, in whatever was going on in their head.
Even, I'm sorry to interject, is it their decision or the marketing? Because that's something that always keeps me, eludes me from the fact, most of the life that we're living, is it being guided or, persuaded into living this certain life? Is it a life of a choice?
See, eventually I will lose that battle. Okay, so I wouldn't get into that conversation because it's a convoluted conversation. Okay, but let me say, for all the way we look at humanity, okay, the reason we wake up in the morning and we do some work, okay, because the reason I said I would lose that battle is I will then have to go back and say, why do I even wake up in the morning? But if I assume that I wake up in the morning, I do what I do and all that, subconsciously, somewhere, an individual is making a choice and a decision, however forced that decision is. Okay, somebody came for this training program, because they were told you have to come here. And I understand that. I was forced. But now start peeling the onion a little bit. You were forced because the other person had this control over you. The person had this control because of this particular choice that somebody else made in your life. It happened because of this. It happened because of this. Somewhere you will get down to, somewhere in peeling this onion, you will get down to, it was a choice that you made. It was an action that you took. What I'm trying to say is, while people keep thinking about mental health as this obscure, hard to understand, mystery world, in reality, every action that they take in their life and every decision that they make in their life is driven by their need to optimize their mental health. So when they decide to eat, I'm sorry, I have a slightly bad throat, so you want water? No, I'm fine, thank you. When they decide to eat the bad food that was made in their house that day, it was because they knew it is the same choice to eat that food versus get into whatever else will happen if you don't. So, I'm jokingly saying that, but in everything, what human beings are wired to as individuals, as humans, is the need to optimize their mental health. I call this the all-consuming activity that humans do. Which is why, we called it the 16-hour theory. In fact, I recently we recently authored a book that actually I carried a couple of copies here as well, where we discuss in detail about this 16-hour theory as well. Now, this essentially means, if you think about it now, it essentially means that everything that is happening, all that you are doing, you are trying to optimize your mental health. If you now go back and like you like to do self-analysis, if you now go back and if you start peeling the onion of the choices that you made in your life, or why you are where you are, or what happened in the smallest or the largest set of what has happened in your life, you can start looking at what mental wellness aspect drove you or pushed you or helped you towards the various decisions in your life and to where you got to. For many people, this understanding, and we have never read about this, there is nobody, people talk about mindfulness, live in the present. For me, I can't even understand, comprehend fully what it means. For me, the 16-hour theory, this aspect of every action and every decision is influenced by mental health, actually gives me a paradigm to think about. For many people, okay, so if you think about each one of you individually and start evaluating everything around by looking at how does my actions and my decisions, one, how are they influenced by my mental health, and two, more importantly, how will I look at my future actions and decisions and start evaluating them from the aspect of your mental health. It is extremely therapeutic. For some of you, I can assure you, you will go out of this room and you will think about your some set of actions over the next few hours and evaluate that in terms of how did it get impacted by my mental health. For some of you, it will last longer. It will last for a few days. For one of you, or for an extremely limited set, but for some, it may even be a completely transformational moment. Because now you know that you were the one that had control. You were the one that made the choice on whatever good, bad, ugly, whatever sad or happy situations that happened in your life. One of the aspects that we talk about when we look at mental health is it's extremely difficult. There are so many emotions, so many things. People keep throwing words all around. One of the things that we try to do in kind of looking at mental health is translate all of that in easy to use terms. And when we did kind of research analysis and looked all around, we came up with 5 words. 5 easy to understand words. We said all that people do in their life is try to reduce, stress, sadness, and loneliness. Dukh, akelapan, tanav. And all that people try to do in their lives is try to increase happiness and peace of mind. I'm still waiting for somebody to help me with the sixth adjective, but I haven't been able to formulate it. It is really as simple as that. When I said all actions and all decisions in your life are driven by your mental health, you are trying to do one of these 5. Either you are trying to reduce your sadness, loneliness, or stress, or you are trying to increase your happiness or your peace of mind. That's it.
I can help you with the 6th one.
Yes, please.
Evolution.
Evolve. Evolution usually would sit within the realm of increasing happiness or increasing peace of mind.
No, I would not want to be happy, but I want to be better than where I am.
Better for?
Anything. Like if I can use my any sense better, if I can use my vision better, how can I, like Kanchan is a runner, so she participates in marathons.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say it gives her happiness, I don't know, I'm just looking for that, maybe not. But we try to push ourselves to the next limit where we see, okay, what else can I do?
Mm-hmm.
What else is a capability?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. All I'm trying to say is usually a lot of that happens with our need to be happier and more peaceful. We push ourselves because in terms of evolution is even growing up every day is evolution, right? I get to see the next day. You are saying evolution as I not only grow, I grow in some capability that I have. So it's not natural growth only, but I'm adding some layers on top of it.
That's what universe is putting here for.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, what is the higher purpose of our life?
Absolutely. But and this is an important aspect of what I want to mention. But you are saying that as Mohit. Okay, that's and in a lot of ways, intellectuals like us, okay, sometimes have this problem. We think about growth as going out of the norm somewhere. For many people, not us, people below us, people that are working for us or maybe a level below that, for them this natural growth, getting to see next day, is evolution enough. They don't think anything, and getting to see that next day, being happier and having peace of mind, having lesser stress, lesser loneliness and lesser sadness than the day before, that's evolution enough. So I'm not taking your evolution away from you. I mean, that's what inspires me. I mean, my background is till a few years back, till 3 years back, I used to run a digital marketing agency. The agency business still works, but a few years back, I looked at myself and said, yeah, what am I doing with I'm running an agency. Yeah, it's a good 70, 80 people company, and we've done well for ourselves. We are reasonably well known in the market. But I looked at myself, what am I doing with my life? Why am I, it's been 10, 12 years. Why am I still running this agency? Why am I not doing something else? Most people in that space may look at it and say, you're running an 80 people agency, man. You started from nowhere. You came from, a situation where you started your life in a house, using the word house, in a room with a bathroom shared with multiple families. And here you are running an 80 people agency. But so that evolution for every individual will have a different manifestation. What I'm trying to say is that evolution for everyone gets encompassed within this increasing happiness and increasing state of mind. People like you and me, unless we have that evolution, or people like her, unless you, instead of running 10 kilometers, you get to that 11th kilometer, what am I doing in my life? You're running 10 kilometers every day. What do you need, Bhavan? But you need to push yourself to get that 11th and that 12th and the 13th kilometer in. And that's evolution for them. But really, life gets encompassed for most people in these 5 adjectives. So looking at, and this is one of the things that we keep on talking to people about, keep on having them look at, challenges or whatever is going on with them. Evaluate your life in terms of the 16-hour theory. So looking at every action and every decision and the mental health impact that it had, or the mental health reason that caused it, in both senses. And then now look at whatever was happening, how was it impacting, or how was the final result on these five aspects. As I said, we'll talk about work-life balance a little bit, and this is extremely important aspect of work-life balance. I know everybody suffers from work-life balance issues, right? Everybody suffers. Everybody does. Everybody does. I'll talk. Even those that think they don't, I'll tell you why I say they do. We all keep talking about work-life, and most people talk about it, right? It's extremely rare that somebody will say, I don't have work-life balance issues. One of the realizations that we have had as we are evaluating work-life balance issues is the challenge is our lives are all convoluted now. One question that I ask in all my training programs is, I understand, you have work-life balance issues because you have to take your work home, right? Because you don't have any working hours anymore. You have to do stuff when you are not here. Because it never ends. You keep getting messages, you keep getting calls, you keep getting emails, and blah, 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 blah. Because sometimes in your case, of course, as airlines, it becomes extremely difficult. By the way, I'll spend a little bit of time talking specifically about the airline industry as well. I have a slight, view of what is actually happening and why there are so many challenges that are currently going on in the airline industry. But without that, and we talk about all of that. The other important aspect which most people don't really look at, how much of our home has invaded our work life? We keep talking about work-life balance as our work has invaded our home life, right? And that's a work-life challenge issue. I get that. Let's look at the other side. How much of our home has invaded our work life? How much of your daily working time do you spend in responding to WhatsApp messages, paying your home bills, thinking about other aspects that are part of your home life, not necessarily your work life? How much of that invasion has happened? So and I can assure you, for many people, the work-life balance issues, they don't spell it out that way because they may not even be aware of it that way. But for many people, work-life balance issues don't necessarily come because they have to take their work home. It comes from that. I'm not suggesting it doesn't. But also because they have to bring their home to work. That is why I said the problem of work-life balance issues is that our lives are all convoluted at this point of time. And there is no specification of this is my work shelf. I'm not talking my work. This is my work shelf and this is my home shelf. I am here from this time to this time. I'm here from this time to this time. It's not one invading the other. It's everything being convoluted with each other. And that realization, or really looking at your lives, looking at what is going on, you as trainers, and more importantly, people that you normally would work with, the trainees, people that are on the job, and on the job in the airline industry. It is difficult. See, many times I see people talk about, hey, my flight got delayed, I had to go through this much of stress. Well, there was a person on the other side who was, one of your trainees. That person actually was there as well, trying to at that point of time handle the 100 people that they were responsible, 100 or 50 or 200 or 300 depending on the size of the plane and the number of people and all that, trying to handle everybody. And oh, by the way, this person may have had to get off of the plane, and because this plane was delayed by 5 hours and their next flight was in 10 hours, may not have gotten enough sleep and had to go back on the plane again. Right? So, in a lot of ways, the lives around, specifically as you look at your industry, it is a stressful, challenging job. It is services industry. And I have this theory, and I've been talking about this for almost last 20 years. There are 3 places where people have the highest amount of emotional turbulence in their life. Number 1, when they get to the hospital. Number 2, when it is birth or death. Number 3, when they travel. Number 3, when they travel. They are looking to be dealt with mittens and dealt with cushions and comfort all around. In all these 3 situations, when they are in the hospital, when it's a question of life and death, or birth or death, or when they are traveling. So your lives, or lives in an organization such as Indigo, is extremely challenging in that sense. Airline industry for me suffers the worst of it. And the reason it suffers the worst of it, in my viewpoint, is airline over the last decade has become a mode of mass transport. But airline has retained its imagery of luxury transport that used to be there 50 years back, or even as late as 20 years back. So we are still labeled as luxury. People look at us as luxury. People deal with us as luxury, but really, we are mass. People that come to travel with us are also mass now. Not necessarily luxury, but they expect luxury. And many of the challenges that we suffer in the airline industry are probably, people don't complain as much if their train stops somewhere in the middle of nowhere for a couple of hours, right? But a flight gets delayed for 40 minutes, it's,
We expect it. Train at time pe pahuncha diya. Wow. It's a good achievement.
Mohit, in fact, when the last few issues, there was a time, couple of months back, when 3-4 issues happened like one after the other. There was the tarmac incident, and there was an incident of, something happened in the flight, some passenger hit a crew member, multiple things happened. I was actually at that point of talking about this. Airline industry need to go through an evolution. I think I met you at that point as well, and I was saying this. Airline industry need to go through an evolution. It need to rebrand itself as, mass travel. We talk about budget airlines, right? We talk about no-frill travels, but we still are looked upon as luxury. In fact, I don't want to get into too much of that detail, because I think if we are able to get there, make it mass travel, we may even be able to get rid of a lot of queues that happen outside the security check-ins and all. We may be able to get rid of a lot of the frills, a lot of the, maybe even the cost element, but really smoothen it versus complicate it if we are able to do that definition. But no, I'm not here to talk about the future view of airline travel. I am here to talk about, assuming we are where we are, how do we empower people that work with us, people that work for us, or people that are part of us to be able to do their jobs better? As simple as that. And the question that I ask people as we do that, we all have good days. When we wake up on the right side of the bed, we think it's a lovely morning, we do everything well, we get out of the house and we are at our productive best. And then there are days when, it's not such a good day. We probably wake up on the wrong side of the bed, we start our morning slow, we dislike the coffee that we have in the morning, there is something that happens, a fender bender that happens on the road, which is not really a fender bender, but it really spoils our entire day. How the hell could this happen to me? And then we end up being the way we do all through the day. And we all face that, right? Let me ask a question. What is the difference in productivity between that good day and the bad day? Any numbers? Just what do you think the number would be? Is it 20%? Is it 50%? Is it 100%? Anyone? Between the day when you are productive, you are happy, you have peace of mind, to the day when you have higher amount of stress, higher amount of sadness, higher amount of loneliness. I'm not asking why did that happen. But between this day and that day, difference in productivity. And I will give you statistics for this as well. Anyone?
80 to 100.
80 to 100%. Okay. So let me give you the statistical data that I have gathered around in this. nearly 100% of people have at least 20% difference. Nearly 70 to 80% people would have a difference of 50%. Nearly 30 to 40% of people will have a difference of 80 to 100%. And then there will be some people who are more emotionally turbulent and it will be exponential. I do 20 things when I am happy and I do one thing when I am not happy. What we are trying to do is we are trying to come and say, if I can empower you with tools, solutions, processes, approaches and capabilities, can I reduce the number of or the amplification of bad days that you have? Can I increase the number of or the amplification of the good days that you have? So, can I give you something that can take you from this low productivity to somewhere around the more average, higher level? That's really the question that we are looking at. While when Ritika was talking about, she was talking a lot about the psychological disorders, people having certain mindsets and all. While they are of people that may be more emotionally turbulent, in reality, if you take the intensity out, all of that will be valid for us. We may not have, a cut leg where we still feel pain, but we still have narratives that we have created for ourselves. But we still have situations where we react a certain way. And one of the extremely important aspects that we keep talking about in mental health is there is an approach called as coping mechanism. Coping mechanism is the way our brain reacts to something. Well, in some ways, I relate that to the 16-hour theory and I say, well, that is your brain trying to optimize your mental health. Now the challenge, and this is where it all starts to come together. Now the question is, can you as individuals be more aware of your coping mechanism? See, many people look at coping mechanisms as bad. ये तो ना जब ऐसा होगा तो ऐसे ही react करेगा. ये तो ना जब ये होगा ये. And all that is fine, and I understand sometimes your coping mechanism may be extremely irritating and frustrating to others. Sometimes may be extremely irritating and frustrating to you as well. But the question is, can you create, can you internalize, can you, self-analyze or look at yourself to determine what your coping mechanisms are? What is it that works or doesn't work for you? How do you react to certain situations? And can you then try to implement a structure, a system, a solution where you, instead of them being instead of them being subconscious, can you bring them to a more conscious state of being? So, I'll give you an example, and this is not what most people do, but I drive on daily roads. I don't keep a driver, and I drive in bad parts of Delhi. So I have to cross ISBT every day at 7 in the evening. That thing, Gurgaon traffic is bad. Traveling on NH8 is bad. You need to go there. From my house to this place called as Majnu Ka Tila. Sorry, from my office to this place called as Majnu Ka Tila, which is 4.5 to 5 kilometers.
Yes.
Can take an hour. I'm not talking about because an accident happened, because a blockage happened. It can take an hour. Period. Okay. From then on, my home will be 15 minutes, which is another 15 kilometers away. But till that point, it can take an hour. And I have created this structure wherein I abuse all around the way. Okay, I abuse all around the way. On Tuesdays, it gets even worse because there is a Hanuman temple there. I abuse all around the way. With 2-3 things. Number one, I never roll my windows down. There is a fender bender. Okay, I will simply go off. I don't want to stop. I don't want to argue. I don't, but I will keep abusing along the way.
And he ensures the person sitting next to him, his or her mental health is.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. But I will never argue, I will never fight on the way. Okay? I won't roll my windows down. I won't stop for a fender bender. But I will abuse. You know what? My coping mechanism, it keeps me extremely sane. When I get to my home or my office, I am fully done with that traffic. I have no problem. I am happy, satisfied, nothing is going wrong. I mean, for many people, it's a disaster. My daughter does not travel with me on Tuesday because she knows there will be, because it is Tuesday, there will be more traffic and there will be more abusing. She refuses to travel with me on Tuesdays. But in my world, it's so. Jokes aside, my coping mechanism. It is bad, right? I'm using. It works for me. I don't impact other people's life as much. It works for me. I don't want to change it a bit. Now, I'm sure many of you probably do similar stuff. All I'm saying is, can you look at the coping mechanisms in your life and bring them to your forefront? Let me give you another example. Another interesting thing that I do. I may get into an argument with somebody where I have to, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm responsible for 80 to 100 people. Just like you were saying, every once in a while, some trainee, you will get angry and you will scream and shout. It will happen, right? I have created a methodology for me where I will scream and shout at him and I will look there and I will smile. Initially, when people start working with me, it freaks them out. But I have developed this one. I will scream and shout, and I won't smile at him. I'm angry at him, but I will look somewhere else and I will smile. And then I will go back here and I will scream and shout, and I will look at somebody else and I will. Keeps me safe. Keeps me happy. It doesn't, it means I don't carry my pressure around. After what happened, I screamed, I shouted, I abused if I was on the road. It happened. I'm out of it and I'm done and I'm moving forward. Anyway, so determine what are the coping mechanisms for you. What works for you. And if you are able to bring it to your conscious state of mind, can you now bring them out as and when you need them? See, this abusing would happen with everybody, right? I have consciously chosen to bring it to the forefront. This screaming and shouting will happen with everybody. And you should not be screaming. If he has done something wrong, scream and shout at him. No, why will you carry it to somebody else? I've consciously brought it out. I'm saying, can you determine parts of your life? Aspects of what are your coping mechanism, and can you now look at how do you replicate it? I don't care whether you are a trainer or you are a trainee or you are in any other role in the world. If you can implement this methodology, it is extremely powerful. It is able to give you a lot of leeway in terms of handling the turbulence that goes around you. Let's be real. We live in a world where there is turbulence all around. Emotional turbulence more than anything else.
This is what they said even in Mahabharata. Kalyug. It's all, the battle is here. Life is here.
Yep.
Everything is happening
Absolutely.
here. Until people are not ready and equipped, this is the battle.
Absolutely. Everything is happening here.
This whole world is turned into quite mental, existential.
Yep.
place.
Absolutely. Which is why we have the burden of trying to figure out how to deal with it. We have to come up with the solutions for it. We'll talk about the solutions and everything in more detail in terms of what kind of technology can be used, different aspects and everything as well. But this coming up with describing your coping mechanism is an extremely critical part of what everybody needs to look at. You guys want to come?
Yeah. She has an activity.
Okay. So before we actually talk about this, we have this very small activity in which I'll ask everyone to pick up one blazer. You don't have to eat it right away. After you're done with the activity. One. You can take more if you want to eat it later, but I'll request my team also to do it.
आलिया
भाग्य में तो छोड़ दे।
खा लिया है तो और है।
मैंने इसीलिए 2 उठाए थे।
Thank you, baby. I don't like kismis.
Okay. So what I want you all to do is, for like let's say 2-3 minutes, just close your eyes and feel the kishmish and feel the raisin in your hand, on your fingers. And usually you would just describe it as like a wrinkly thing. It's sweet in taste. It doesn't. I don't like it. Alternatively, I like it too much. It tastes good in halwa and kheer. Okay. So I want you to just keep it in your hand, feel it, and think of any. Maybe if you can come up with new adjectives for it. Think of something new you could feel. Something that you've not thought about maybe before.
Flexible.
Okay.
It's a little bit wobbly.
Wobbly, flexible.
It can work like a cushion.
It can work like a cushion. Okay, similarly, like if you shut your eyes and think of, let's say, a random object, let's say a whiteboard or a marker, can you come up with a newer adjectives with, let's say, apart from the usual that it's white and you write on it? Maybe something about its texture. Like when we look at a whiteboard, we don't think of its texture. That okay, when I slide my marker on it, this is what sound comes, this is what it feels like. Can you hear that sound? There's this thing that if you think of any object and if you think of how it would feel like when you lick it, you can always tell what it can feel like. You can tell what it will feel like when you lick your phone. You can tell it. You know what it feels like. You can tell what it feels like if you lick the carpet. You know it will be scribbly on your tongue. You know what it tastes like also. You know what if you let's say put the back of your pen in your mouth, what it will taste like and what it will feel like. You know what a coin tastes like. You feel the inscribings on the coin on your tongue.
So that's using the memory of the brain. The brain is creating that thing. That is saying, even though we never did it, but I can almost think about it.
Yes. But the entire purpose of this activity was that for the while that I was asking you to think of this, there has to be a point of time where you forgot about a lot of different things. Like the meetings that you have to be a part of today, like the people that you have to train. Like you were so engrossed in feeling, okay, what new adjective for the kishmish can I find? Oh, it's wobbly, it's flexible. That you don't care about what the other thing is. And that is what Sir always talks about, that he doesn't know what mindfulness is. This is exactly what mindfulness is, that, while you were, feeling this thing, and while you were thinking of all the things, what they would taste like, you were just thinking of that. And you were just feeling. You can eat your kishmish, by the way. So, when we talk about, work-life balance, a lot of times there's this aspect of compartmentalization. When we do mindfulness, what is actually happening is a compartmentalization of it. That right now this is what the priority is, that she has asked about what the texture is and what new thing I can come up with. And the other things don't matter anymore, because this is what the priority is. There's this very morbid saying, it says that what can I do worrying about it if I will end up just as dead? Like, कल मीटिंग में डांट खानी है क्योंकि काम नहीं किया कल वाला, तो कल तक तो काम कर ले ना, कल तक तो वरी ना करे, वरी करके क्या होगा, डांट तो पड़ेगी, चाहे कर ले वरी चाहे ना करे वरी, है ना? Like, when you can't have the conclusion, when you know ये तो होगा ही, will it help you with the worry part? It will probably make it worse, right? That okay, mood पहले भी खराब था और खराब हो गया डांट. Right. So there's this wonderful example of, like, let's say this is a team, and of course you work with big teams, and one of the big things is, how do you get them to walk together? So have you heard of this experiment? It's called the spaghetti and marshmallow experiment. Okay, so what happens in this experiment? Let's say a trainer like myself or like yourself, you go to the group. Let's say I give you all like a bunch of spaghetti, the long pastas thingy, and marshmallows. And I say that you have to build a tower of the spaghetti and use whatever. But the one marshmallow has to be on top. That's how the tower will be. Like, whatever the नीचे का part is, ऊपर एक marshmallow होगा. And it has to happen. How will you go about it? Like, what kind of structure will you make? What kind of... you have spaghetti, you have strings, and you have marshmallow. Like, how would you get with each other and work with each other? Like, is there a pattern that you would follow? Anybody?
First we'll brainstorm,
Okay.
and together we'll jot down, ask all the ideas, and then start picking which one will work better.
Okay.
Trial and error.
Trial and error. Anybody else? Blueprints. Okay. So this experiment, it was conducted in multiple corporations, multiple organizations. You like yourself, trainers, with trainees, with people who have businesses, with architects. Architects ka alag hai. They do very well because they're trained in it. Then there is this group, let's say. Let's say average पे अगर उन्होंने 20 centimeters या 30 centimeters का बनाया है, one group which will always, do better is the architect group. Can you guess of another group which would always do better?
Engineer.
No, engineers do bad. The group which does the best, actually, are kindergartners, toddlers, 3-4-year-old kids. Because, everybody does this, that, like, they make a structure, if it falls, then you try it, start again. They make a blueprint, then they start again. But kids, what they do is, they first put the spaghetti, they put marshmallows in the middle, then they do it again, then they put marshmallows in the middle, and then on top. So the worst of the lot was businessmen and people who have done MBAs. They performed the worst. The best was architect and then the kindergartners. Because the process, right, the corporate process or the work-life balance process of it all, it takes out so much of creativity and potential out of individuals. So I'm sure one of your aspects or tasks when you work with trainees is how do you get them together to work with each other so that they, instead of us helping them out with everything, they can help each other out. And this is like one of the aspects of team building. I would suggest conducting this activity with them. So kindergartners, what they did was like they came up with 5 different plans. So like let's say there's a group of 5 people, 5 kids. Each one of them, they made their own blueprint. So now they have 5 routes that they can go to. They start with the first route. If they fail, reject it. They start with the second one, and if it goes well, then they go with it. And if not, so now while they are doing ki chalo, let's start somewhere and we'll figure on the way. And then they make this very complicated structures. Like, you know, engineers are like that. They make this blueprint of very complicated. कि हाँ इसको यहाँ attach करेंगे, इसको यहाँ attach करेंगे. And नीचे का बहुत complicated है. Then they put the marshmallow on top and it falls apart. But it's that kindergartners are able to do the like walk with each other so much better than us as adults are. And it's because, you know, like they have more simpler ways of walking. And we as adults, we complicate it too much. As I said, a lot of times the answer is right there in front of you. And we know it's the right answer, but we want to. It just seems too simple to be accepted as an answer. Like, I remember when I was in school, it would be the simplest questions, and I have this habit of overwriting answers. And the answer would be true, but I would write a paragraph on it. And then I would get 0 marks on it, of course. Because, yeah, it's the wrong answer. So, coming back to the compartmentalization part of it, a lot of times this is where we falter, that we do not know how to compartmentalize our work life and home life. Let's say like something is happening at our home. Will worrying about it all day make it any better? Something happening at work, will worrying about it while you go to sleep make it better at work? So a lot of time just rationalization of it all and coming with evidence. Like this is my advice to everybody is that like when you think something is like going too wrong, just come up with evidence of the conclusion that you're coming to. What evidence do you have for that conclusion? And if there is evidence that something can be done better, do it better. But if there isn't no evidence that okay, अगर मैं कर भी लूँगी ये सब चीजें तो वो better तो नहीं होगी, then why waste time on it? Why waste time worrying about it? Okay, so now coming with we have this stress management, like some tips and tricks that you use on daily. I'm sure like you all are first aid trainers, so you also teach them perhaps. But before that, we would like to ask about the problems that you face on daily, like with your trainees, with your own mental health, something like this. Maybe some of these, like if you have like anybody here who has irregular work hours, everyone, high stress levels, emotional toll of training. That seemed to be the common answer. Pressure for perfection. Isolation and limited social support. Okay, that's great. Adaptability to technological changes. And job insecurity. Okay, so these are just a few of the problems that we thought that you might have, and they are true for a lot of industries. But from your end, like what other things do you think are stressful?
One thing that I think about is, is teaching the same topic again and again with high level of enthusiasm. We, as I think Parag already might have mentioned, we get frustrated sometimes. How to keep our energy levels up when people
So maybe
ask the
boredom.
same question, and then we have to keep that patience. Every week we're teaching the same topic
Yeah.
over years.
Yeah.
So that is my concern, where we can be evolving and doing it new way and be more energetic.
Okay, so maybe like if I were to comprehend it in like one word, it could be monotony or
Yes.
boredom with the same thing. Anything else?
That I get is a very interesting aspect. I remember many years back, I was doing some work. I was part of IBM based in US, and I was doing some work for Disney, and I was at talking to some people there, and I asked one of the guys who was there. He was working as a tour guide, and then later on he did tour guide work in New York City as well. And I asked him, so I went to one of those roller coasters, one of those rides in Disney where they take you along a journey and they do all sorts of things. I said, how do you? I mean, for me it is very exciting. I'm doing it for the first time. You go through it every day. How do you keep it interesting? And and he said, I keep coming up with something new that I would say and do, and I will challenge myself to successfully pull it off every day. And I jokingly asked him at that point, so there will be a day when this challenge will get monotonous, right? And he said, yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, that's specifically in such environments where the training course is the same. And in fact, that consistency in the training module is what you are meant to train.
See, because I can see your own SMEs, so at a level coming down to this, how to comprehend it in the most simplest manner.
Yep.
Itself is very challenging.
Yep.
Because the trainees that we're teaching, they don't come from a science background. And then to download this complex information, that itself is something challenging.
Recently we were doing these workshops, these mental health workshops with elementary school kids. So imagine this same content, but it's meant for students who are second graders to till 8th graders. So how much do we change? So one thing that I found that really worked were the games that we played.
Exactly.
Right? The kids love games. So and they love to make shore and halla. So all the parts that, and one thing that also worked was the incentive at the end, that was like juice boxes. So how do you introduce? So the content will be the same, it will be the same monotonous content that you will have to teach every day. But one, how do you make it fun for yourself? Is introducing activities, and how do you get them to walk with each other so that it's not, so you come up with more activities is what I would suggest, and you come up with an incentive for them, for it to be fun for them. I think a little praise goes a long way. A little oh yeah, you did that great thing. If someone tells you first thing in the morning, yeah, that's yesterday whatever you did was great. It's likely to make your whole day at work, right? It's that likely to make you feel okay, yeah, maybe this is not the only place, not just the place I do slavery at every day. Maybe they appreciate me also, and maybe my work is valued. So not just for them, not just for the trainees, I would also suggest creating incentives for yourself. Okay, this is what I have done today and what do I get. So I think when you are like also trainers, a lot of times there's this hierarchy sort of a thing, right? Like, okay, like we are trainers, we know more. Of course, you know more. But how do you come at the base level and like sort of interact with them as like, you know, as a part of the group and not like as a part of, not as an instructor, but as a member of the group, so that it doesn't seem more of a lecture and it seems more of like, you know, play. So perhaps there is a need of the teaching process and the training process. So like even in like I think working environments, let's say if I'm talking about my own organization, like I would say I work much better when let's say this, you know, like this workshop, that's my boss sitting right there. I'm coming so under, but we are working as a team. Like right now, I would feel as an equal. Maybe there are hierarchies, of course, everywhere. Like when I go back into the office, there will be a hierarchy as to he's telling me something that I have to do. But maybe right now it's become a situation where, you know, like we are both speakers at this one. And some sort of like rejection of hierarchy. So I think for people to grow, it is important to feel like, you know, they are valued and they are, you know, an important part of the group. I think now I would pass it on to Muskan and Rini, who will like talk of stress management and like some simple tips and tricks that you can maybe incorporate on a daily. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
so before we go ahead and talk about stress, we have a small activity once again. So it's a self-assessment. You all have the folders with you. So if you will find a page within it which has a QR code on it. So what I would want you to do is take out your phone and scan this QR code, and it will redirect you to a page which would have a lot of self-assessment tests. If everybody could just do that. Can everybody open the page? Okay, so over there would be a stress test. The name of the test is stress test. So if you could open that and give the test. So before beginning the test, there would be a permission that would be asked for, which says allow camera and microphone, I think. Can everybody see that? So just click on allow and
It will come. It will come.
might take a second actually. But once you click on the test and you start answering
If you can,
questions,
sorry,
it will
if you can remove the mask because it will check your emotions. Thank you.
Yeah, so the camera is for emotional recognition. So it's a software that we have developed where while you're answering questions, it also records your emotions to your face. So yeah. I would request everyone to just quickly go through the tests and answer the questions.
It's an easy 3-minute test.
Yeah, there are roughly 10 questions, so it won't take a very long time. So now that everyone is back, I will just give you a quick run through of what stress is. You know, since today we are talking a lot about the problems that you face, stress is something which all of us go through on a daily basis, right? So you can treat these 5 minutes as a quick crash course on what stress is, because understanding the concept is very important before you can deal with it, right? So I would like to pose this question to you guys. What do you understand from the word stress? So when you say that I'm stressed, I am not feeling right. So what does that stress mean for you? Or like, what do you understand from it? Anyone, if you could go ahead.
Not feeling well from inside.
Okay, not feeling well from inside. Anyone else?
Same thoughts regarding that particular situation comes
Okay.
in your mind again and again.
Repetitive thoughts, overthinking.
Getting
Okay.
irritated from the things.
Getting irritated. Okay.
Unable to find out the solution.
Unable to find solutions. Okay.
Sometimes unable to pay attention in anything that
So you lose focus.
Focus, exactly.
It's difficult to concentrate. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else?
For me, it is like now maximum learning will happen, so I pay a lot of attention to that time.
Okay, maximum learning will happen. That is a good way to look at stress. Okay, so from what all you guys have told me, these are all the ways in which stress manifests in us. So when you're stressed, sometimes you're not able to concentrate, sometimes you're not able to, pay attention, you're not able to find solutions to things, you feel stuck. Okay, so by definition, what stress is, it's our body's reaction to any situation which it finds threatening. So whenever there is something in your environment which you're not able to deal with, your body will react with stress. Okay, so for example, there's a deadline at work. You're not able to meet it, your body will get stressed. You'll keep thinking about it, you'll not be able to focus on other things, right? So this is one way of looking at stress. But the point being that what we say over here, stress is never the villain, stress is not the villain. So this is a lovely curve which we refer to when we talk about stress. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson principle in psychology. And if you follow along the graph, or the below line is the stress. So as you go from here to here, stress increases. And as you go up, performance increases. So what this graph would show you is when the stress is too little, you're inactive, you're laid back, and that is a situation where you're underloaded. So what we're trying to say here is that some amount of stress is very important in your life, because without stress you'll not be motivated enough to do things. So as sir just gave an example of, when you have to do the same thing over and over again in a class, why you lack that motivation is because there's nothing to be stressed about. You have nothing new to worry about. It's like I have to do the same thing over and over again, right? So a little bit of stress, a little bit of newness is very important in that sense in life. So that is why over here as well, when stress is little, your performance is not that optimum. So there is a certain level where performance peaks, right? And this is when the stress is in the middle, it's moderate. But as and when stress increases, it goes beyond a certain level, it will impact your performance and your performance will go down again, right? So when we are talking about this, there are two classifications of stress. First is eustress versus distress. Eustress is the good stress, the stress that will help you focus, that will help you pay attention to things. So that is the stress that is good for you. But when it goes beyond a certain limit, that is when it becomes problematic. So when we talk about the problematic stress, one stress would be कि एक situation आई और गई. The other stress would be एक situation आई and you're not able to deal with it and it keeps persisting for a very long time. One example of that can be, and I think it's very relevant even now, COVID. During the COVID years, there were 2 years in which everyone was at home. There were a lot of things going on inside people's head. There was job insecurity. What will happen now? What will happen to my family? If you have someone elder in your house, there's a different kind of worry. What will happen to my grandmother or my grandfather or my parents for that matter, or to me, right? So that amount of stress for such a long period of time, over the course of the 2 years, it became chronic in nature. And it was something that we could not deal with, which is why it became so problematic and your performance gradually dropped down. Your mental health took a toll, your physical health took a toll, right? I think everyone can agree with that. So that is a way of looking at stress, that it needs to be within a certain range, and which is why it is so important to tackle stress in the right way. If you're not able to deal with your stress, it will obviously go beyond a certain limit where you're not able to function. But keeping it within that moderate range is very important. And since we're really short on time right now, I would like to invite Rimi, who would be sharing some tips with you to be able to deal with the stress.
Thank you, Muskan.
As Muskan shared, that we need to be on the moderate side of the stress, right? So we might be having some first aid quick coping mechanisms that we have, right? To just get out of that stressful zone, right? Someone might be just, fist clenching, teeth grinding, right? All these symptoms, all these physiological things that we do to just get out of that stressful zone. And I think there are a lot of people, as Sir mentioned, that they do think about the thought process as well, right? But not everyone is at that zone. ठीक है. So I wouldn't try to repeat all those things that are already mentioned by Sir and Ritika. I want to tell you that there is this therapy, that cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a very simple technique and very, very effective for each and every person, for personal or professional, what do you say, stressful events that have happened in your past, right? So sir, as you mentioned कि जैसे आपको बहुत monotonous feel होता है कि सबको हमेशा आपको feel कराना होता है कि this is something that they need to grasp. I think as Ritika mentioned कि उनको जब feel होगा कि they are included in the group, how do you make that feel? How do you make them feel कि वो included हैं and they will learn eventually whatever you are trying to make them learn? It is by addressing their problems. Their problems that have been there since their childhood. Some coping techniques that should be mentioned to them that were helpful for you, right? Some sort of coping techniques that can be, let's say, thoughts checking, right? So, can you please? Yeah. So, restructuring the thoughts, I was telling, right? Restructuring of thoughts is, as you can see, I'm a little stressed also right now. I'm also a little stressed.
It's a first workshop.
So, my coping mechanism right now was कि whatever I'm just trying to, make you feel, and it was Sir's initiative also that you just do your job. Whatever you have learned through your stressful events, however you were able to cope up, you say that. I think all the theoretical part is in the dustbin. When you step up in the world where you really have to work and you have to just show कि हमारा परफॉर्मेंस सबसे बेस्ट होना चाहिए, राइट? हमारा परफॉर्मेंस बिल्कुल टॉप नॉच होना चाहिए. Nobody should have complaints. It's not realistic, right? So how to make it realistic? I just want you guys to थोड़ा सा एक छोटा सा simple सा करेंगे हम activity, that is a writing therapy, writing technique, where you will write about your negative thoughts, your stressful events, and try to be very unfiltered. You want to curse, you want to, talk bullshit, anything that you want to talk about, just write it down on that paper. ठीक है? फटाफट हम ये चीज करते हैं. And this technique, this therapy is for everyone, for on a personal level. ठीक है? अगर किसी को जाना है, कोई पीछे जाके छुपा के लिखना चाहता है, please you can just go and write it. It is not to be shared with anyone. ठीक है? And this is something you can also promote with your trainees. कि something that is really bothering you so much कि आप present में perform नहीं कर पा रहे हो, right? There are a lot of things, lot of baggage they take to the workplace जिसकी वजह से they are not able to perform even after a lot of potential that they have, right? So please हम फटाफट एक ये चीज करते हैं. In pointers you can write. So I would please appreciate if you can also write.
So what you want us to write something
issues, some stressful events that happened in your past, in your experience also. Were you a trainer? मतलब since beginning you were a trainer. Oh my God. That's why you're so because you're so I think मैं यहाँ से पीछे से सुन रही थी and you were bang on with the your techniques with the thoughts checking and everything. I'm like, yes, sir knows everything. What will I teach him, right? So some personal event, some personal issue जो आपका हुआ हो लाइफ में, कोई चाइल्डहुड में आपके साथ कुछ भी हुआ हो, that made you something that you are today, that made you something that a aspect of you that you don't want to feel कि हाँ ये चीज मेरे अंदर अभी होनी चाहिए, right?
Any eventful incident from your past?
breakup man.
Anything related to your relationships, related to your family issues, something or someone that made you feel that you're not enough. You can't do this job. Something that made you feel ki,
He's
I
looking
will
at
mess up.
movie.
Right?
I'm thinking to borrow something from them.
So,
अभी तो stress में तो बड़ा yes रहता है।
So
लिखो क्या stress है? सबसे ज़्यादा हंसता रहता है।
and we just want to take 2-3 minutes doing this and then jump on to the Solh technology.
You can mention just one of your incident that happened. I think it happens a lot with girls as well because उनको घर भी संभालना होता है, बाहर भी संभालना होता है, खाना भी पकाना होता है, ठीक है? मतलब ये बहुत नॉर्मल और बहुत ही कॉमन इश्यूज हैं, right? And after writing that, I want you to challenge those thoughts. Whatever you faced at that time, you must be having some sort of coping mechanism जिसकी वजह से आज आप यहाँ पे हो. आप कुछ ना कुछ करके some hit and trial methods जिसकी वजह से आज आप यहाँ पे हो. You are doing your job anyhow, right?
So we again take this back all the way back to the 16-hour theory and we say this happened and it happened because of this is the what we are looking at challenging. This happened because of this particular aspect and this went on and this went on and this went on and here we are.
So this technique actually is, I'm trying to make you do this technique because there is this word called cognitive reappraisal, right? There is, जब हमको feel होता है कि we are filled with a lot of negative thoughts, right? आपके पास trainees आएंगे and they will be like, ये कितना काम है? This is so much of work, right? This is like, हम लोगों को शायद उन लोगों को आदत ही नहीं होगी, right? उनको मे भी पता होगा, but उनको और सारी technicalities सिखाना, सब कुछ सिखाना, it is a hard job to do, right? तो हम उनको वो चीज सिखाएंगे कैसे जब उनको खुद को ही कॉन्फिडेंट फील नहीं हो रहा है उस चीज के लिए, राइट? उनको कॉन्फिडेंट फील कराने के लिए वी हैव टू मेक देम अंडरस्टैंड दैट देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ पोटेंशियल दैट यू आर निग्लेक्टिंग बिकॉज ऑफ द पास्ट इवेंट्स दैट माइट हैव हैपेंड विद यू, राइट? कुछ ऐसी चीजें जिन्होंने आपका कॉन्फिडेंस ब्रेक किया और आप एक शेल में आ गए हो, ठीक है? यू हैव टू मेक देम अंडरस्टैंड कि there is something that you are not able to see, but I'm able to see. That is why, because that is exactly why you are hired. And this is something Kapil sir told me. Kapil sir, even after me stuttering, even after me not able to speak in a lot of a lot of grand and fancy vocabulary, he sees that potential in me. And that is why he told me that it is necessary for you to come here and speak your thoughts. This sort of exposure, this sort of safe space has to be created for your trainees, for them to learn their greatest potentials. And writing down, you might be thinking, ये इतना silly, इतना सिंपल, इससे कैसे फर्क पड़ेगा? हम अपने दुख लिख रहे हैं, राइट? हम अपने दुखड़े गा रहे हैं और हम उनको फिर हम ये लिखेंगे कि अच्छा हमें इसको कैसे ठीक करना चाहिए. तो हम ये क्यों करें? Because the studies, the researchers have showed n number of result, मतलब इतना high level of result दिखाया है of the mentally I will say people who have the disorders like PTSD, post-traumatic disorders, right? People having anxiety, extreme depression, OCD, such issues have been tackled by this practice, regular practice of writing therapy.
So when you say cognitive reappraisal, is
Right.
it same as thought restructuring?
It is the same. Cognitive reappraisal, restructuring, cognitive behavioral therapy. These are just fancy words.
In fact, when you were talking earlier about changing narratives, In
So
some
that's-
ways, it's
that's the same.
exactly. In
Right.
some ways, it's exactly.
It is basically
Yeah.
to rationalize your thoughts.
Can it be done live as I'm living my moment? Can I have some technique where I can just immediately change it?
With a lot of
Immediately?
expertise, with a lot of mastery, with a lot of working through yourself over a period of time, yes, it can.
For
For
any technique that I can teach effectively to people who are put in high stress environment, look, do this.
As Ritika
it
talked
changes
about
immediately.
it, affirmations, right? कि हम जब कहते हैं
So-
कि we can't do it.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. Sir.
So let me say, right off the back, no. I mean, you can't teach somebody to be mentally resilient by taking them into a workshop and saying them do this. What you can do is probably talk to them about what we've been doing. You talk to them about identify your coping mechanism. Talk to them about approaches that they can do when such stressful environments happen. Giving them practical situations. I mean, there are specific situations that happens in your industry, right?
Yes.
You can
tell-
probably give them those situations and the responses to those. So these are all functionings or call it operational capabilities that you are providing to people, not necessarily making them more mentally resilient as such. Okay, there is a difference. When we do our trainings, what we are teaching is operational capabilities. अगर ऐसा होगा तो ऐसा करना, अगर प्लेन क्रैश होने लगे पैनिक मत करना. You know people have this mask and you know this will happen and this is what you do. I mean, normal reaction to anything going wrong, even the smallest turbulence will be panic, right? But you teach them. People when they fly over a certain period of time would know that this situation will happen and this is how you will react. So these are all operational capabilities. Mental resilience is different than operational capabilities. Operational capabilities comes with experience and with knowledge. Mental resilience is slightly different. That's a state of mind that you develop. That's call it a conscious state that you develop over a period of time. What you are doing is providing them with the operational capability. Okay? We are saying, can we also complement that with developing a higher mental resilience for them?
Okay, what in your experience has been top 3 coping mechanisms for good EQ?
What in my opinion have been top 3 coping mechanisms for good EQ? Let me go through these next couple of charts because they will provide that answer to you. See, one of the important aspects, so when we talked about the 16-hour theory, so we are saying every action and every decision that a human being does is from the aspect of trying to optimize their mental health. Even though they do that, they don't get mental illness help. Let me alternately also say, even if they consciously do it, it is not like mental health or mental distress won't happen. You will still have sadness, you will still have loneliness, you will still have stress, you will still be searching for more happiness and more peace of mind. So what we say is, people lack the vocabulary, the tools and the framework around mental health. What do I mean by vocabulary? The language of mental health. For me, 16-hour theory is my starting point of the vocabulary of mental health. Talking about the 5 adjectives is next level, simplifying the state of mental health. Then talking about everything else around it complements it. What do I mean by the tools? Okay. Now, tools is the most important aspect that we want to bring. What I mean by tools is, and this is Mohit to your question, one problem or one challenge with mental health is your mental health is your mental health. It doesn't work for me. Similarly, my mental health is my mental health. It doesn't work for me. One of the challenges that we are seeing in the mental health world is everybody wants to create associations. What I mean by associations is, this works for me, this will work for you. Go do meditation, it works for everyone. Go do journaling, it works for everyone. Go talk to a counselor, go. It doesn't. I mean, abusing in the car doesn't work for anyone, let me assure you. It doesn't work for anyone, it works for me. Okay, so what are the top 3 aspects or top 3 solutions is very uniquely personalized for every individual. which is why one of the things that we are trying to do with the Solh Wellness platform is provide people with a comprehensive capability to handle their mental health. And let me talk about what do we mean by a comprehensive capability. See, if you look at generic, how do you get support? There are 3 key approaches. Number 1, what we call as self-help tools. So things that you can do by yourself. Self-help. For example, you just took a screening test. Okay, that is self-help. You didn't take anybody else's support. For example, if I give you a solution where I say, hey, you can track your mood every day. Okay, so you can write what your mood is and what emotion is causing that mood, and you can do that every day. And assuming I tell you a month after that, go look back at the mood that you have tracked over the last 1 month. Okay, and let me give you a couple of scenarios. We all have an aunt that we hate. Everyone has an aunt that they hate. Assuming you look back at your mood for the last 1 month, and you know that 4 days in the last 1 month that aunt was visiting, and you look at your mood tracker and you say, I was reasonably happy those 4 days. I hate her, right? What happened? And you realize you may not necessarily hate her. Or you are in a long distance relationship and you are with your partner for those 4 days, and you realize those were extremely stressful bad days for you. Are you really in a healthy relationship? So these are, what I'm trying to say is, there are capabilities, tools that you can use by yourself. Running, in what you do. When I was talking about activities that you do, most of those are self-help tools.
Kapil, this is something we can feel. I can feel today, how is my mood? I can gauge. So why would I need a tool for this?
You will need a tool to track it, and then be able to look at your past history and determine why was my mood that way at that point of time. It gives very interesting insights. So you may be feeling, so if I ask you how you were feeling last week, today you won't remember. You may remember how you were feeling yesterday. That also, you may be remembering a specific attribute of how you were feeling that day. Probably more around, one specific incident that may have happened, right? But the tracker would give you a capability to be able to look at it in kind of retrospective. What happened? Why did it happen? It just gives insights to people. And again, let me at the same time also say, for some people, yes. For some people, no. So I'm not coming here and saying track your mood. It will, alter the way you look at. No, it works for some. It doesn't work for some. Goal setting. Some of us can't function without goal setting. I can't set goals for myself. Doesn't work for me. But there are people who can't. Some people can't even move a finger without knowing what is the goal. And other capabilities, but really looking at things that you can do by yourself. Number 2, community support. A lot of mental health resilience comes as community groups. So specifically in trainings, if I can tell you one aspect that I would necessarily integrate as part of trainings, it is forming smaller support groups within the trainees, maybe along with the trainer, to be able to get help not just when they are in the training, but way beyond that. Even when they get into the real environment as performers. Developing support groups, providing community support is probably one of the most crucial aspects that works for me. Again, there will be people for whom it may not work as well. But generically, if I have to give you a percentage number, community support would work for a lot of people. Developing that support group where a set of people are able to relate, are able to talk, are able to share their experiences and get help from each other. It does tremendous things for people. What we have done is we have tried to take the self-help tools, the community support tools, and the third one, the expert services, which is where we say there will be situations when you are overly stressed, when you are overly worked up, when you require some support. What is so wrong with going to a counselor at that point of time? What is so wrong with going to an expert at that point of time? So we say, not always, not in every situation. We are not saying, go to a counselor every time, you have any incident. But Identify for yourself what works for you. Self-help tools, community support tools, expert services. What we have done as an organization is we have created a tech platform where we empower people with this. The self-help tools, the community support tools, and the expert intervention. In the self-help, as I said, it would be self-assessment, which you recently did, goal setting, mood analysis, and a lot of read and learn. There are workshops and toolkits and other activities also that are available there. In the community support, there is journaling, so you can write a diary for yourself. One of the important aspects is when you do anything on Soul Wellness app, you can choose to be anonymous. It's mental health. So a lot of what you may want to write as a journal is, very sacred to you. You don't want to, or in a lot of cases, you don't want it to be associated with you. So you can write a journal, but you can write it anonymously. You can join a support group also anonymously. Okay, you can network or develop soul buddy, what we call as soul buddies, to be able to get support from people, to be able to network with them, to be able to connect with them, to be able to chat with them, to be able to learn from their experiences or share your experiences. In expert services, it could be clinical expert services, which means a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a counselor, or it could be non-clinical, which is what we call as allied therapies. So some of you may like, meditation, and you want to join a meditation class. Or some of you may like running and may want to join a running class. Or some of you may like something else and may want to join something. These are all part of mental stimulations. So, one thing that I answered for you is support groups. The second thing that I would very highly recommend is developing and helping people identify these stimulations for them. And they are unique. They are unique. For somebody, motorcycles would be the one. For somebody, running would be the one. For somebody, journaling or reading books would be the one. For somebody, it would be something else. And of course, there will be sleeping. But what we have done is we have put all this together in the form of a mobile app platform. Okay. Now, what we do is we work with organizations to provide this mobile platform to all constituent members. Now, on top of this, we provide two things. Number one, we provide a capability for the organization to be able to customize it and provide it to their constituent members in a co-branded manner. So, when your members, when your trainees use, okay, they will see Indigo logo at the top. They will see a screening assessment test which is specifically meant for your trainees. They will see other things that will be specifically meant for your organization. And on the back end, okay, we will give capability such that you can look at group organization based data. You can't look at individual data. So your stress test is your stress test. What you just took, it's your result. It will absolutely never ever be shared with anybody. Maybe it will be shared with a therapist if you choose to go to a therapist and you authorize the therapist to access this data. All of these have to be and. Okay, it will never be shared with your organization. But will the share of 100 people participating, we would be able to tell the organization, stress is a problem in your organization. Social anxiety is a problem in your organization. This particular aspect is a problem, and then by the way, this is not a problem. Now, if you are able to identify what are the key challenge areas, you can come up with intervention steps, you can come up with solutions, you can work effectively on those areas in a much more reasonable manner. So, what we are trying to do in this is we empower people with a platform through which they can get mental wellness support whenever they want, in whichever form they want, to be able to identify and to be able to hone in and to be able to structure their coping mechanisms. So, we have come to the end of this particular workshop. I know we ran 15 minutes over. So, it's time to relax, ask any question, anything that you might have. Anyone that wants to even have a personal one-on-one, as I said, a couple of our psychologists are here. You can post this session, talk to them separately as well. I know there are a lot of aspects in mental health that you have for yourself and you can't talk. Okay, and it is very understandable. As I said earlier, unless I'm talking to 12 to 15-year-olds, nobody wants to talk about it. They don't care. But so if there is anything, you can do that after this session as well. But if there is any thoughts, any questions, anything that anybody wants to ask, this is the time.